Hi, I'm Ben, and welcome to another episode of Project 2JZ28. Today we're going to be working on finishing the exhaust and talking about what's coming up next. And as you can see from the shirt, I'm happy to be living the 2JZ life. Here we are.
Woo! Building exhaust clearance
Yes,
in my Sunday best.
this is what it's all about.
So this is the stabilizer bar for the rear panhard bar mount into the car. It's basically just a reinforcement plate, but the exhaust runs right through here, and fitting a 4-inch exhaust over top of the axle and basically not losing any ground clearance, not losing any suspension travel, really means we have to notch this a little bit. I don't want to go too far because the other beam, the actual panhard bar comes up and kind of slots into this slightly, but we're actually only losing maybe 5/16 of an inch of travel, and it's at the highest point.
Okay.
So I don't expect it'll actually be a problem, but it'll get us an awful lot more suspension travel. So I'm going to finish shaping this in, and then I'll clean it up, and we'll take it together because I hate MIG welding. So.
Yep.
And I have a TIG machine, so I might as well use it.
So even though we took a chunk of that out, we'll still have all the structural integrity we need and the strength?
Yeah, so I'm plating it back in. This is 1/8 inch steel. It's actually quite a bit thicker. This is, well, this is probably, it's a little less than 1/8 of an inch. So it'll be a little bit thicker than what was there. And then the bend of it here will help. And this is only really just used in compression.
Okay.
So there's not a lot of torsion load on it. So.
Gotcha. Cool. Looks like it fits really nice.
Yeah, the objective here is to get it as snug as we can so that I don't have to try to fill in any metal with TIG. It's just a lot easier to weld that way. So that's basically what we want to get right there, is where there's very, very little gap. So I'm going to do a little bit of fusion welding, so these corners here, I'm not going to bring them back because they'll tend to just kind of dissolve in the TIG, and then just getting the last of the, it's hot rolled steel, so there's mill scale all over it, and you don't want to try to TIG through mill scale. You'll just make a god-awful mess.
Gotcha.
So that should get us good enough for that. So
cool.
Over here and,
this is where the GoPro record, but I will turn my head because I don't want to be blind.
I have another mask if you want. It was kind of Michael Jackson there for a second.
Nice.
Works better with 2 gloves. All right, see, there's a start of it. They're not the prettiest welds in the world, but it won't fall off.
Hey,
so
I think they'll do the job just fine.
That's the goal, right? Nothing falls off that's not supposed to.
Yep.
All
right, so Blake, do you want to go over just what we have so far in the car here?
Which part?
Well,
just what we've done.
I guess what we've done since we last had a video here, and yeah, I mean, this is the first time we've really had anything as far on video goes of underneath the car, or what it looks like underneath.
Yeah, so if we want to, we'll cover a few things here in a moment when we have the camera off the gimbal a little bit maybe. But essentially, the big stuff you can see under here is the coolant pipes. So if you bring the camera up here, kind of up just below the header here, this is the lower coolant pipe out of the water pump. So what I did is I took the stock 2JZ GE thermostat and I just flipped it 180 degrees. So it kind of used to point kind of this way over here.
Okay.
Kind of more towards the, well, really where the alternator and downpipe and everything kind of disagree on space. So there's a little notch, so you can't install it backwards. I unnotched it, so you can install it backwards. Otherwise, it's symmetrical. So I built that, and then I built this coolant pipe that kind of dodges down around the alternator. Spaces, this area right here is really the biggest spot where space is kind of at a really big premium. So I just used this to dodge it, and then I redid the connections on the radiator itself. There used to be a pipe on the radiator that kind of pushed it all this way, or actually pushed it up so that the pipe kind of came in front of the fan up quite a bit higher. So what I did is I cut all that out and built a new blanking plate, and then built this little adapter that comes off of it. And then all of these either have a bead roll or just some TIG on the end of it to give some positive retention when the clamps are on so they don't evacuate their homes. So, and then this wiring here will get mounted probably to the fan. There'll be a little backing plate. This fan sticks down about 1 inch below the radiator. So I'm gonna build a little plate here on the bottom that kind of grabs it. And that'll grab this wiring and this, I don't know what this relay's for, but it does something, it'll go there.
That actually is for the airbags.
Oh, airbags, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that seems vaguely important.
Yeah, don't hit it with a hammer.
Yeah, right? Well, at least not while the battery's hooked up. So that's all taken care of. That got us plenty of clearance. And then if we move back, we have the wastegate dump tubes. So basically this car has twin wastegates, which you'll see right there. And these are the screamer tubes that come off them. So basically these will just vent straight to atmosphere. And they just needed to kind of dodge everything. So they look snug here, but the rotation of the motor, they won't hit this. So, and they're real snug to the oil pan, but they move with the oil pan. So again, not really a big concern. They're fixed to each other. So I'll probably clearance this just like 1/8 of an inch, just so that they don't touch. So, and then you can't see much of it from under the car, but the 4-inch downpipe in the engine bay is in place. I still need to add one more wideband bung to it, but that's done. And then we actually transitioned from stainless to some mild steel that the car previously had on an exhaust system.
Yeah, that was the combo she had before.
Yeah, so we've got this oval tube, which is nice for ground clearance. So
yeah,
it
kind of
tucks
get an angle
up nice.
here, but you know it really doesn't hang low at all, which is awesome because go more on the outside of the car. I mean, the sway bar goes pretty much the same, you know, as far as the ground clearance goes as that. So we're in really good shape clearance wise, which was why we went oval.
Yeah, and forgive the ground welds in some places. I ran out of welding gas and couldn't see it with my helmet on. So I had some ugly weld here, so I kind of reworked it and ground it back. It's structurally sound.
An ugly weld is only a grind away from being a nice weld.
I'm not a professional welder, but I'm an excellent grinder. And then a few of these are some older welds that were done with a different welder several years ago now.
I think it was my welder.
Yeah, that was done with your Hobart. And they were a little cold, so I reworked a couple spots and fixed a couple little things. That was my work from quite a few years ago. But then it transitioned, like I said, it transitions from stainless to mild here, but this is all just going to get hit with VHT 2000.
Nice.
And then it comes back to the rear, and this is where it gets pretty fun. So this is just tacked in right now. This will get final welded here in a minute. As is this V-band. I'll take that because making the V-band's a pain in the butt. But this basically has to dodge over the exhaust or over the axle, which is difficult. So,
yes. We'll come around here and kind of see that. But,
yeah. And we also, if you look down here, we have to clear the drive shaft. So it actually looks closer than it is because right now the rear is at full droop. So this is as close as basically as close as the clearance will ever get. So this is more than enough. This will actually have about another 2 inches of clearance when the car's sitting at ride height. So, but that needed to be clear. This is not the drive shaft. If you notice, it's zip tied into the car, which probably won't stand up to 1,000 horsepower.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, I was wondering that when I came under the car earlier. I was like, I thought I sold my drive shaft. I still need a drive shaft. Wait, there's a drive shaft right there. I'm confused.
Right. Yeah, so this is a drive shaft out of one of my old RX-7s, but it's got the right, this must be a 1330 rear U-joint, 1310. It's not a 1350.
1340 maybe?
I don't know if that exists. Anyway,
yeah, okay.
Whatever it is, it's what I had. So I've got some sweet zip tie based U-joint straps, which are probably the future of drive shafts, but for now we're gonna probably convert to steel. But this is basically just here to make sure kind of roughly where it's gonna sit. So it's zip tied in place, but it shows me where my clearance is to make sure I don't do anything stupid with the drive shaft location, and to make sure that the angles are roughly sane. It's got an adjustable torque arm, so getting the angles right isn't a super big deal. We can adjust within sane reason, and the engine's set pretty close to stock. But we've got about a 1/4 inch there. We can adjust angle as well.
Okay, cool.
So, but yeah, so then we come back to the axle, and this is all very close to the body, kind of because it has to be to get us enough angle. So this needs, again, this drive shaft's at full droop, so this needs to cover up our clearance. If we do have any issues with it, other than it self-clearancing itself, we can put a little scallop here to increase our clearance if we have to. But I mean, it's only about 3/4 of an inch from the heat shield at the top.
Yeah, I can see that. It's
So
really snug.
Yeah, it's as tight as it could be. So, and then basically on the back here where it comes out, this will get a 90. There's a slight gap or slight angle adapter that needs to go in. But this will get a 90, and then we'll have the exhaust, the muffler will sit right here.
Going crazy.
And then it'll come out of the muffler on this side, and we'll do a 4-inch to 3-inch transition right here to the 3-inch tip. And then the other one is basically going to kind of loop around and flow back with the 3-inch around, so it'll run along post muffler along the muffler. So the second tip will be kind of a funky setup, but it'll give us some extra flow that we wouldn't have with a single tip.
Okay, I thought for whatever reason after the muffler we were going to do a split from the 4-inch to a 3-inch, going one way or the other way.
This will come out. This will neck down to a 3-inch, and then
I see.
the other 3-inch will come off where it's still 4 and run back alongside. So it'll kind of almost look like where a Wastegate splits.
Gotcha.
Think 99 Grand Am dual exhaust.
Nice. And for those possibly wondering, I'm going to use the Borla muffler, not the factory Borla muffler that came with the LT1, but going to use the Borla, I think it's the XC1. It's a racing muffler that, quote from Borla, it's supposed to flow better than a straight pipe. I don't know if I necessarily believe that. But yeah, but anyway, it should quiet things down. And
that's the tips you're running, right?
Yeah, I want to retain these tips for sure. So we're gonna snake the 4-inch down to the 3-inch, which is what that is, into the tips. And quote Blake, it wouldn't be perfect, but it would work. And really, if the tips are there in place, it'll look perfect to me. That's all I really need. So
yeah, a lot of the goal is just keeping it so that from outside the car, like you said, it'll be kind of a awkward path for the second tip underneath. Mm-hmm. But at this point, we're so far back that if there's a slight flow restriction there versus the straight, I mean, there's only going to be about 4 inches of 3-inch pipe, ironically, to the tip. So it's really very minimal resistance, even with a single exhaust. Mm-hmm. And then anything that needs to flow out can come around the other side. So you're probably gonna get like 80% of your exhaust flow out of this tip, and that one's kind of
whatever.
30% of it's there for looks.
I don't know if you can see this, but the stain shows that most of the flow was coming out from that side last time versus this time. And that's just exhaust pipe. We don't worry about it. But yeah, last time I got most of the flow of the other side, hence the dirty spots in the bumper I can never clean fully. So yeah.
Those are really only noticeable if you run somebody over.
Yeah, and they're not around anymore to talk about it. So, all right. So yeah, man, it's looking really, really good. I think after this, what do we got on the horizon next?
Basically, once the exhaust comes over the axle, which is really, I've got to put this needs welded on. This is the kind of angle changer to get that 90 degree to come out correctly. And then I can't complete that 90 till we get the muffler, and then we'll get that kind of all sorted out.
Okay.
So we'll probably, basically, this is going to come out, and I'm going to make sure that a V-band can clear over. That's the main reason I scalloped that, is so that we can get a V-band through there without having to remove that stabilizer bar every time.
Okay.
That doesn't look fun. So assuming a V-band will clear it, that's pretty much the last fabrication on the car.
All right.
When the engine comes out, I'm gonna build a second steering rack stabilizer and finish the mount that I had to hack up, and a couple little things on the subframe, but that's all relatively minor. That's probably an afternoon's work. So yeah, this really finishes the main fabrication. So next up is the wiring. We're going to sit down and go through and figure out all the sensors and adapters and things to get it hooked up. I've tracked down all the 2JZ specific connectors and stuff we need.
Nice.
So we'll get that all sorted out. And then we've got to get the fuel system in and the wiring. And I think we've got the wiring supposed to be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I'll start getting the harness laid out. We'll get the sensors in and we'll get that done. I have a spare. I have the one for my car. So I've got a Haltech 2500 upstairs,
okay,
which is what's going to go in it. So I can get that all kind of start building it out. And then really once the wiring's done, it's ready for engine assembly and all that stuff. I think we'll have a side project probably while that's going on to get the gauges built.
Yeah.
Those probably should be here from Speed Hut soon.
I talked to Speed Hut just a couple days ago, and they said probably another week and a half. I should have them.
Say mine. So that's next. So we're kind of in the home stretch. I figure I'll get that wiring going, and then it's really just some relatively minor stuff.
Yeah, man, it looks good. And for those watching, I apologize. I just got a gimbal because I know some people had said, "Hey, your videos are shaky. Why don't you do something about that?" So I got a gimbal, and this is my first time really messing with it on camera. So if I'm still jacking stuff up, I'm working with it. But hopefully each video I'm trying to get a little bit better for everybody. Show good progress on the car. In the meantime, as always, if you guys have any questions, comments, anything you'd like to see on the car, any questions you have on the car, just hit us up with comments on the bottom of the video and let us know what you're thinking or what you're wanting to know, and we'll be happy to do that. And until then, I'll be living that 2JZ life. See ya. you.